Greetings and welcome to Channel Other Doc. I'm Jim, your friendly Lacuna. I use he/him pronouns, and this is the first development mode session of our Invisible Sun game, The Edge of Paradox. We're going to go around and introduce everybody for them to say who they are and who they're playing. This is kind of going to be a downtime type thing, so it's, but I'll get into the specifics of how that works as we go. Let us actually start with the person whose character we are introducing today, Danielle. Hello.
Hello. So yes, I am Danielle, and my character is named Vormira Vanas, but she goes by Vor to her friends. She uses she/her pronouns, as do I. And Vor is a weaver who shepherds mines. So she used to be a professional poker player during her life in Shadow. And so she has a house of cards as her home. And she's a little bit obsessed with gold. She gets a bit twitchy if she's not wearing or touching something gold. And as a result of that, she has actually, and also because she doesn't want anything to be her tell, she has had her eyes removed and replaced with a band of gold. Yes, so she's always got some gold on her.
Awesome. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. And let us move on to Wilde. Hello.
Yes, hi, I'm Wilde Jr. I am playing Shantanu, the itinerant empath of the Order of Apostate who splinters into fragments. They use they/them pronouns, and if you look carefully at them, their shadow kind of moves around oddly.
Excellent, excellent. And finally, let us go to Arras. Hello.
Hello. I am Arras, and I am playing Aroshka Ruzik, the aromatic empath apostate who converses with everything, but who used to be a Vance. And I and my character both use she/her pronouns.
Excellent. Cool. So as we're getting into this, just as our general reminder, like we do with most games on this channel, we're going to be using the X card, the N card, and the O card. If we hit something that's crossing a line for one of the players, any of them can type an X in the Zoom video chat or anywhere else, or make an X symbol, and we'll back up and do something else. If something happens that you're okay having in the game, but you don't want a graphic description of it, type an N in the Zoom chat, and we'll fade to black on it or put it behind a veil, so it'll be there, but we won't go into detail. Finally, if you're exploring a topic or area of roleplay that's particularly intense for you, but you want to keep going, you can put an O in the chat to let us know you're okay and that we're good to keep piling on the drama. Something else we can do is put an O with a question mark after it when we're moving into a difficult topic or say or do something and then think, maybe that might have been a little too much. Then everyone else can respond to that and let us know if we're still doing okay. So now let us hit this development mode thing. It actually is... this is meant for mostly sort of side scenes, downtime sort of stuff, by and large. Things where we can sort of feel free to play a bit with the narrative. It's very fast and loose. And the only mechanic we use on it are the Sooth deck, are the cards in the Sooth deck. So anytime we need to sort of figure out things that are happening, that's where I'm going to go to kind of figure that out. And we'll just sort of do that as we go. Let me see. I think, yeah, those are the basics of how this works. I figure this is going to be, again, sort of a somewhat. This is going to be somewhat more chill than the main game. Although the first session was fairly chill, as far as I can tell, and as we're still sort of ramping up. But I don't expect this to last hugely long. This session is mostly we're just sort of introducing Danielle's character and then figuring, taking care of things that we want to take care of, and kind of going from there. So I have first for Danielle a few questions I would like to ask that
Right.
I asked the rest of the group on Saturday, and the first one is, can you tell us again what Vor's arc is, what her character arc is?
Oh, yes. So I actually wanted to talk about that. So this is a good transition. So I kind of would like to do something that's a little bit along the lines of a hybrid establishment / revenge arc.
Ooh.
The idea I have for her is that before she went into Shadow, she was friends with someone in high society who betrayed her, and is part of the reason why she ended up in Shadow the way she did. And now that she's back, she is out for a little bit of revenge, and she intends to get that revenge by essentially becoming the premier socialite of Saturnine. The person everyone wants at their parties, the person everyone wants to talk to, the kind of person who, if she's at your party, it's the party. And in so doing, sort of, shove that back in the face of the person who got her cast into Shadow.
Oh, nice. It's interesting because it was one of those things where there were the ideally, theoretically, for what people kind of remember, and again, it's sort of fuzzy, but the idea was that a lot of folks fled to Shadow to kind of protect for protection during the war.
She's not really that type. Vor likes taking a good risk, so she would not have voluntarily fled into Shadow.
Interesting. This is fascinating. Do you first of all, does Vor recall who it is that did this?
I don't know. I've been kind of going back and forth on that. I kind of want to say no, she doesn't, because I think that makes it a little bit more fun. She knows it was someone very powerful and in like high society in Saturnine, but she doesn't really remember exactly who it was.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And so this is sort of kind of revenge, but also just trying to remember stuff in order to gain revenge. All right. We can totally play with that and sort of figure it out as we go. But one thing that probably has occurred to Vor by this point, because this we chose the we chose the desideratum of travel, and so at least to kick this off in some way, this arc of yours, you're going to need to go somewhere. Now,
okay.
What I'm wondering is, where is it that you think you need to go? And it can be something we've established in the neighborhood, or it can be anywhere. It can be under any sun. It doesn't essentially matter. We may or may not get there today. Probably not. But it can be wherever you like.
For a starting place, both to help her sort of on her quest into becoming a more established member of society, but also to see if she can find anyone who maybe has some information. It would be really sweet to get into that endless party.
Interesting. That's very interesting for a number of reasons. Okay. So what that tells me is actually when we're going to pick this up. So something that is going on that's kind of open, that's just opened this morning, is a World's Fair over on the kind of west end of town, a bit north of where the night circus appears. It's World's Fair without the apostrophe. It's actually the Fair of Worlds. There are many, of the sorts of things that one would, things represented from under the different suns. And then, of course, you also have the thoughts of the minor suns, the little sort of pocket worlds that can appear from time to time, place to place, that people have created for whatever reason. So those are things also represented there. Now, some of your compatriots, you're going to be aware that they are going to be at that fair today. And so a thing that I'm wondering is if you would, and again, we can play with time here as well. I know I know that some of them are going to want to interact with you at the very least. Do you want to interact with them today?
Sure.
Okay. So prior to, so that day, the fair opens at what we're going to currently say is about 8 a.m., and we can translate that into whatever it actually is under the indigo. But for the time being, that's just what I'm saying. I think we said like 8 or 9. And some of your, you know that some of them were going to be trying to head there fairly early, but that's up to you how soon or whatever you want to do. Day, go ahead.
I was going to say, so Vor's two things. First of all, Vor has to be fashionably late to everything.
Of course.
So there's no getting there at 8 a.m. She has to get there a little bit late at least.
Absolutely.
Also, because she's very involved in the nightlife of the city, getting up that early is just not something she does whenever she can avoid it. So she's probably going to roll in at the equivalent of like 11-ish.
Sure. So, is there anything in particular that you want to do before heading over there today? I know when we see you, we see you. We have your. Well, we'll describe that if we come to it. Sorry, keep going. What do you? I was fighting with myself for a second. Anything you want to do before you head over there?
Well, I mean, get dressed. Obviously,
Well,
she puts on, her nice clothes. All of the gold jewelry she has. I feel like she probably had. You know how there are those. There's like a bracelet and a ring, and then there's like the chains that go from one to the other. She probably has 2 of those on, and lots of chains around her neck and everything. She wears a lot of pantsuits, so that's sort of her aesthetic. Gets everything nice. Grabs her cane that she carries with her all the time, and probably moves in sort of a meandering path, saying hello to everyone she passes on the street that she knows.
Sure.
Very deliberately avoiding the church next door.
Yes. You immediately just sort of bolt to the west out of your house. And in so doing, as you are kind of passing by, you see that it's fairly early for the dice game, so it's not actually started as of yet. In the alley next door. And did we ever say who it was that runs that?
I don't think we established who was running the dice game. No.
That's an excellent question. So there is the individual who normally runs it is not there right now. But sometimes you see them at this hour and sometimes you don't. But right now, there is a kind of, on one of the sort of, there are a few there's like a couple wooden chairs basically that's out there. You see a sort of a sign that's draped across it that says, out trying to remember something.
All right. Is there anybody there, or is it just the chairs?
There are a couple of pigeons.
A couple of pigeons.
Yes.
If the pigeons look like they're going to destroy any of the equipment or anything, I'll shoo them off with my cane a little bit before I continue down the street.
Yeah, it looks like one of them is trying to kind of peck at the dice. There's a set of dice sitting there on the chair, which is, maybe it's not that unusual if it's because you know that they've got several, but it's usually you pass, more often than not you pass by, they're here.
A nice set of dice.
Well, if you're coming to get closer, let me go ahead. I'm going to pull a card real quick. so that I might see, so that I might know the future. Let's see. Okay. And the card that I have pulled is the Sealed Door. That is card 9. It's the suit is Secrets. It's associated with ravens, books, and flame. Meaning is delay, inaction, barriers, unchanging. The door holds more promise than a wall, but a sealed door is perhaps worse for the egress it suggests, and then denies. This barrier prevents us from moving forward. It is delay. Wasted time, a failed attempt. Still, a door with a keyhole suggests both the existence of a key and something valuable on the other side. Of course, the door in the family of secrets is sealed. It keeps the secret safe. The implication, of course, is that great discoveries lie on the other side, if you can only get there. In divination, generally a card of ill omen, the sealed door stands in the way of victory. It keeps one from a goal. Since progression always involves change, it can, however, simply mean that things don't change. And if one is in a good place when this card is turned, that can indicate that the pleasing situation will continue. So, yeah, as you're kind of looking up and looking at the dice, you see that the dice are not actually, that the pigeon is not making any headway on moving them. This pair of dice, because they are. It's like it keeps pecking at it, and they just don't move from where it's sitting on a chair, on one of the other chairs in the alley here. This is one of the shinier pairs actually. It's sort of inlaid a little bit with what you know is not real gold.
But it looks like gold.
But it does look like gold, yes.
She's impulsive. I'll pick up one of the dice.
So the interesting thing about this pair of dice, and you remember this just as, the pigeon sort of hops back. You reach down to pick it up, and it's like it's glued to the chair. It's not, but it's like it is. It's kind of like you're trying to pick up a car. That the way these things are not budging from their position. And no, this is probably one of the sets of special dice, so it's weird that they left it out. But it's seems to be safe enough.
Okay.
That no one can move them for whatever reason.
I'll just shrug, and I'll probably say something to them about it later when I come back through if the dice game has started back up again. But leave the alley and head back on my meandering sort of way toward the World's Fair.
Yeah. As you kind of back off, the pigeons were sort of watching you with very intently, and as you back away, they flutter up and fly up into the sky. As you're going through here, you will. You're going to be passing to the west. You pass by you pass through the square with the Susurrus fountain, where it is babbling all manner of nonsense.
Let's stop and listen just for a minute.
Okay. Hey, what the hell? I'll pull another card. I do this. Why not? Why not? Why not indeed? Because that's what this is all about. Here we go. Oh. Okay. So this time, we have the swan. That's card 28. Is the companion of visions, which means good fortune, good weather, latent talents. Elegant and serene, the swan is the companion card of the visions family. It is a harbinger of luck, and in particular, it is said to bring calm, favorable weather with it wherever it goes. But as many someones have said, we make our own luck. And let's see. In this case, the swan represents that as well. In the midst of a challenge, someone displays a talent, an affinity, or even a magical ability that they didn't know they had. When this happens, is sometimes called a swan event. In divination, it's a card suggesting good fortune. The winds of fate blow favorably for the person in question and the path that lies before them. Rarely, however, it is deeper than that. The swan and its resultant swan events can suggest that one might have a talent that has so far been unrecognized, even by the person in question. The talent is the key to moving forward and succeeding at some upcoming challenge. But how does one discover such a thing? You barely make out something as it's sort of coming across here. So it's, you keep hearing this. How did your friends go? I can't remember. So you're making out a couple of words here and there. Someone's concerned about something.
Okay. Does getting any closer to the fountain help me hear it better, or is it just sort of...
Not today. It does. It seems like, you get, I mean, obviously you get closer sound traveling and all, you can hear it a little bit, but, you get basically as close as you can, and then it just sort of goes into this sort of drone.
We established last time that, like, people throw coins in this fountain because they think they'll hear something important. I'll take out just like a small coin, like a low denomination, and just toss it into the fountain.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So you do that, and it's weird because there are no fish in there, but it's kind of like it goes down and there's a brief sort of shadow across the water, as though the coin has just been snatched away. You don't see it hit the bottom. And then after a second, it comes flinging back up out of the water.
Can I catch it?
You can. You're able to reach out your hand and grab it, and you see it's a little shinier than when you threw it in.
Awesome. I have no idea what just happened, but it was pretty cool.
Just passing strange.
Yeah, well, and it's if it's a little bit shinier, that's really all the motivation Vor needs. So she'll just sort of flip it and like put it in her jacket pocket.
Okay.
As like a token of good luck.
Cool. So you continue on your way, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
You pass by the Broken Mirror. Across the street today, the restaurant is currently kind of a series of food trucks, and they're the just couple of folks who run it are dashing from food truck to try to man all of them simultaneously, which is kind of tricky. But they're also using magic. That helps a little bit. And past the tenement, which doesn't, the tenement where the Eternal Party typically happens, and there's not really much. You don't hear much inside right now, but you see people coming and going out of this gate that stands in the middle of what looks like an empty field, to the west of that. This very sort of ornate metal iron gate that's swung wide open, that has emblazoned across the top, World's Fair. All
right, I will go in.
You go in. You join the stream of various people coming in and out. And as you enter, you see that it's still the same sort of open space, where they'd actually, a little while back, they knocked down some buildings that were over here. And made it flat again. They put in grass. But now it's got all manner of sort of tents and booths and structures on it. There is music playing in various places, and you see folks are running around as one would at a carnival of sorts. One thing, however, I do want to establish, as time has passed. So, Arushka, where would you have? Let's say that if when you're at a it's sort of a carnival or what have you, and you're with folks, and every now and then you decide, okay, we're going to split off and do other stuff for a little bit, and we'll meet back later. What thing would you have wanted to have checked out at this point? What kind of thing do you think?
Are there any either animals or like shops with weird stuff that you don't normally find like on this in this city?
Yes, there are both. I think there is a menagerie here, of sorts, a little traveling menagerie. It is set up. It looks like a this glass building that's over to the side. It looks very kind of very ornate. You know, there's been a lot of sort of metalwork in between the glass. There are things things that look like lions' heads carved above the gateway entering it. But that's kind of what you're seeing at this point.
Well, if that's the first thing I run into, I'd probably go into it just like, ooh, shiny.
So one thing I would like to know is Shantano still following Arushka around, or have you broken off to do other stuff?
So this is a new day, right? So
This is the same day. This is later the same day.
But it's like several hours later, right? Because it was like 8 a.m. and all the other stuff was happening.
It's been a few hours. You've seen some of the stuff at the fair already.
Then he'd probably ask Aroshka if she was busy that day, or if he could follow her around, or or not follow her, join her for whatever she would be doing.
She would probably agree. Probably even if you said, "Can I follow you around?" Probably be like, "Sure."
Nice. So you're gonna go into this menagerie, and let me see what kind of thing you're going to encounter in there. Okay. Oh, that looks wonderful. So the card that I have drawn is the Crowded Tomb. That is card 5. It's a card of secrets. Its meanings are endings, despair, and completion. The tomb lies at the end of all stories, the reward for the greatest monarch and the lowliest beggar. Of course, the tomb is crowded. It grows more crowded each day. Mourners crowd around the tomb, but it is even more crowded within. So many deaths, so many endings. Crowded Tomb is the location card of the Secrets family, and thus represents a permanence, or is related to a physical place. This means that the finality that it represents probably occurs in a specific and significant location. In divination, the Crowded Tomb is an ending, not necessarily a sudden ending, an ending that you know full well is coming, whether you acknowledge it or not. It might just mean that a task is finished. It doesn't always need to be sad. Everything needs to end sometime, but there is an air of despair to this card. Not outright misery, perhaps, but a lingering sadness, a mourning. So, as you get inside, it becomes kind of clear to you that you've wandered back into the area of the fair where a lot of stuff is represented from the Pale. And this is a menagerie of deaths. Now, they are animals. They are somewhat translucent, that you're seeing roaming around inside these sort of wide cages. But the types of creatures that they are, apparently, according to signage that you see as you're coming in, it's like, so there is, for example, you see inside what looks kind of like a bird cage, you see this sort of diaphanous gauze that has been kind of shaped roughly into something not unlike a long-tailed parrot of sorts. And it sort of comes up from its perch as people approach and drifts along just in midair, back and forth, not in the way that an actual bird would. And every now and then it lets out a kind of a hiss and sinks down to the bottom of the cage. And apparently that one is labeled illness. And there are others, other sort of animals representative of different kinds of deaths here. You see there's something not unlike an aquarium a bit over a bit of a ways where drowning is currently swimming back and forth, just sort of listlessly staring out at everyone. And there are many such other cages in this place.
Creepy.
Yeah. People are kind of wandering around looking at it, just sort of curiously. There are actually a couple of demons here, looking around. They're taking notes. So they're just going from thing to thing.
This is like not what Eroshka was expecting at all, but she's like, oh, this is cool. Just kind of wandering around. Simultaneously like interested but creeped out.
I think Shantanu would have broken off without telling Aroshka and has started just kind of like shadowing a group that seems to be, if they seem to be particularly affected by what they see, just so he could kind of gleam onto their feelings.
Yes. Yeah, there are... You see, actually, you're going to kind of, as you drift around and you kind of, Shantanu, you think after you sort of turn a few alleys down, you stumble across the, you get into a more violent section. There's an animal of falling here, and at the far end, where there are some people crowded around, there is something, and you can't even see the animal because there are people around it, but the label at the top of the cage says murder. Which is interesting because there are probably going to be there are a lot of different types of murder, and those might even be represented here somewhere, but this seems to be some kind of beast representative of the concept of murder itself. There are a number of just ladies standing here with, they're actually got champagne flutes, as they're just sort of looking at it kind of in horror. They're sort of wandering around trying to kind of see over it, but they're not exerting themselves too much as they are doing this. They're all wearing sort of sparkly dresses as they're just sort of looking in at this thing. One of them turns around, kind of as you're getting closer, trying to follow folks around. She's like, "Oh my God." Don't do that. Have you
Don't
seen
do
this
what?
thing? Well, don't just sneak up when we're looking at murder. It's not done. It's not fashionable to do that at all.
No, well, I'm never fashionable.
Huh. Well, I suppose that's some kind of statement in and of itself. She just sort of turns around for a second. She goes back to kind of just sort of looks over the heads of a few people.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what exactly is it that's drawn you to this?
Well, my friends and I haven't gotten out much. We haven't seen this much death all in one place, and it's been a very long time, hasn't it? And they're sort of nodding. It's been a while. It's very interesting. This, though, I don't know if it's art or if it even wants to be here. It's very strange. It's a bit
been a while.
unsettling.
So, have you seen something like this in actuality?
What did you say?
So have you seen something like this in actuality?
She just sort of looks over and hard to say. One gets around sometimes. Hard to say where one is at any given moment, but that's it's a hazard sometimes. She says, drinking her champagne, which then refills on its own. No. Well, I suppose have a look at it if you like, but it's not something I'd recommend.
Now, do the I don't know, are they spirits or visions? Do they actually give off any sort of feeling, or is it just like a projection type of thing?
From what you can tell, these are like actual beings. So they must have been dredged up from somewhere. It may be, sort of as you're thinking about this. So this is the thing you've kind of heard about, is that sometimes there are areas where, and it's not even, it's wrong to think of this physically because it's not necessarily one sun that is next to another sun on the path of suns. That is where the most bleed occurs between two suns, but sometimes you can have something that kind of is part way between one sun and then another sun that's even on a place in the entirely different part of the path of suns. And this looks like these things might be representative of, might be from somewhere that would be like halfway between the pale and the blue. Because they are sort of thought forms. But they're also very specific thought forms.
So they would walk up, like right up to it, and they'd say, it's not what's actually occurring that's the most interesting part. It's what you see in through their eyes.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
You can see whether it's panic or relief or just nothingness.
Well, you've managed to make your way past a few people. Are you going to look into the cage?
Oh, yes.
All right, I'll come back to you in just a moment. So, Vor, as you've been just sort of wandering a little bit for not for very long around this fair, you are going to catch sight as you're going past this big sort of glass enclosure that you are going to catch sight of Arushka as she is looking at something at one of the cages in there.
Yeah, so I will follow her in and walk up behind her. I'm not really trying to be like sneaky or anything, so she can hear me.
Before you approach, I just need to know, Arushka, which death are you looking at currently?
I'm muted. It would help if I wasn't muted. I've probably been slowly looking at them one by one, so I'm probably like 3 or 4 behind Shantano.
Okay, so you're actually getting toward the more violent. So I think you're probably looking at, what, say, death by falling? So, yes, this is a... this looks like... It's kind of like a... looks kind of like a flying squirrel to a certain extent. And it's suspended in midair in the center of the cage, with wind flapping up past it, and it's just looking down, terrified the whole time.
Aww.
There's a look of abject terror on its face.
Arushka feels really bad for this little thing. She's like,
Oh my god.
oh,
Yeah, so I'll come up behind Arushka and just sort of peer over her shoulder at the falling death. Yeah. And then I'm again not trying to be quiet or startle her, but I'll just be like, well, have you talked to it yet?
She like looks back. She is a little bit startled, not because you were being sneaky, but just because she wasn't paying attention. And it's like, no.
Do they respond if people talk to them? Have you seen anyone try?
No. But I think most people are a little less given to talking to random non-people than I am.
Well, that's true, I suppose. Does it is this one of those things where, like, if I tapped on the glass, would it react to me?
Would you like to tap on the glass?
Yes, sure. I will tap on the glass.
You do that, and it immediately is like, it falls toward you. It slaps up against the glass and goes, "Ah! Ah! 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 Ah!" It locks eyes with you.
I'll just sort of peer at it with curiosity, because I'm just generally intrigued by these. I'm not really that freaked out. Well, they're definitely at least intelligent enough to react to some stimulus.
It's clawing at the glass.
Is it making any indentations in the glass?
Not really, no. It's trying to, but it doesn't seem to be doing it very well.
So what brought you in here, Arushka?
Well, I sort of thought there was going to be animals. But these are pretty interesting, too.
Yes, animals of a sort.
They're animal-shaped.
They're representative of things that happen to animals.
Unfortunately, yes.
Several of them have started barking for some reason.
Yes, sorry.
No. You can hear that in one of the cages, sort of off
by
to the side.
dogs
Yeah.
is one of them.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, it's very close.
Does mold by dogs look like dogs, or does it just bark like a dog?
It's funny that you should ask that, because it's shaped like a dog, but it's entirely like it's like a three-dimensional shadow shaped like a dog, and you can make out the ears that are boxer-like and the teeth, and it sort of flows around as though to kind of, and you hear it sort of barking as it's flowing around and surrounding the center of the cage from all sides at times, it seems, or is trying to.
I'll just sort of nudge Arashka and be like, point at it and say, well, that one looks like an animal.
Well, it's a very generous definition of animal, yes.
I'm nothing if not generous.
Clearly.
So the you're gonna see a couple of like 3 or 4 ladies in sparkly cocktail dresses come around the corner. And they're carrying champagne flutes, and they're just like, oh my god, I can't believe. And then they stop, and Arashka, you realize that a couple of these were the ones standing on the roof looking at you earlier, at the roof of that tenement. And
I waved to them in the exact same fashion as I waved before.
They stop, they look at you, and they turn their head a little bit. They drift closer. That thing is crazy.
Which one?
Murder.
I haven't seen that one yet, have I?
No, you have not.
Okay.
Your little friend's over there, I think, having a conversation with it.
She's like, oh, good for them.
It's not good. It's not good. I don't think it's good for anybody. It's not done,
Excuse me, where did you get that champagne?
And she just sort of looks at it. Oh, good, the glass is full again. She drinks it. And the glass immediately fills back up.
May I borrow that from you?
She hands it to you.
Boar's gonna...
We have returned, and I am not normally given to hyperbole of this type, but fuck. So, yeah, it's always wonderful when Windows suddenly decides to reboot on you, and the whole thing just right in the middle of your stream. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. First time for that. Okay, so I believe that you were standing in front of, you were standing talking to these ladies in cocktail dresses. You were standing sort of relatively close to, you're standing in front of the death by falling cage.
Yes.
Not too far from the death by being mauled to death by dogs cage.
And I asked if I could borrow her refilling champagne flute.
Yes, she lent you her refilling champagne glass.
I will pound back like 2, maybe 3 glasses of champagne, and then hand it back.
This is the good stuff. You have noticed.
That's good.
It is indeed.
I only get sloshed on a high quality alcohol.
That's it's good to know. That's very good to know. Oh my god. And as you're doing that, one of them, and this is one of the ones that was Aroshka that was staring at you earlier, is going to look at you and says, "Do I know you?"
Possibly. I live around here.
I feel like I know you. Don't you feel like you know her? Yes, yes, I feel like I know her. Yes, yes. Okay. Tell you what. So that we can try and figure this out. You can come tonight if you want.
2.
Oh, you don't know? Yeah. She's going to lean forward. She's going to get dramatically close to your ear. And she's going to whisper, "The party."
Yes, the party. Going to like look desperately at Vor, like, you know about parties? The party.
Vor's gonna lean. Did I hear that? By the way.
You didn't hear the whispering, but you heard Aroshka repeating it.
Okay. I'll lean into these ladies. I have no idea who they are, but I'll lean in and say, "Do you mean the party?"
Come now, there aren't any others. Not really.
Can she bring a guest? I'll make sure she attends.
You can, yeah. Oh, of course, you can bring a +1.
Do we need to know anything to get in?
Well, if I know her already, she should be able to get in.
Well, I'll just hold out my hand with all of its like ridiculous gold jewelry and say, "My name's Vor. Now you know me too."
She takes Okay, I gotta pull a card to see how she reacts to this. I think.
God,
I feel
please
as though that's the right thing to do.
be kind.
I know, we're asking fate to be kind. I'm not sure. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So, I got the Eternal Mountain, which is visions again. Meanings unchanging, solitude, memory, eternal, long life. The mountain stands alone and unchanging. It always has and it always will. Some find this compelling, others terrifying. The mountain sees all and never forgets what it has seen. Eternal Mountain is the location card of the Visions family. In divination, a challenge that lies ahead is insurmountable. Conversely, if one is on the defense, one can weather any storm, any assault, or any ill fate. Eternal Mountain, in general, predicts a long life, but it can also suggest that one should move forward alone, particularly to better reflect upon the past. So when you say that to her, you know, she takes your hand a little too tightly, and she just gives you this look, as though she's basically just this quick sizing you up look, and then as though she's piercing into your soul with her eyes.
I put on my most charming smile. I'm very charming.
And she says, "We shall see." And she raises her hand, and the champagne glass flies out of your hand and back into hers.
Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna get me one of those. Those better be party souvenirs. Vor's just looking at that glass with lust.
And she turns back to Arushka and she says, "Oh, you better go and get your friend before something befalls them. See you tonight." And she actually will lean forward and do that. She actually will lean forward and do that thing where she kisses the air next to you. And then she will turn and leave, and her gaggle of people will leave.
Oh, I do know what that's called. It's called the bizet. Called a bizet.
It's a bizet?
Bizet is French. Little French air kiss on the cheek.
Oh, yes. So yes, she does the composer of Carmen to either side of your face, and then and then heads out. You can briefly hear violin strings as she does so.
Oh. Aroshka is very overwhelmed. That was way more exciting than your average pencil. I guess like leans over to Vor and is like, party?
Haven't you seen it? You live so close.
I don't know.
Supposedly, there's a party that never ends. It's the party, the best one in the city. Everyone's there. And you just got an invitation. Well, we just got an invitation.
You are also coming, yes?
Of course. I would never let you go to a party by yourself if you didn't want to.
Thank you. I don't.
But we are going.
Okay.
Now, who are you here with? They said your friend?
Friend might be also a bit generous, but like points over at Shantano and is like, I know that person. He's following me.
Yeah, they're around the corner. You can't actually see them from here, but you can gesture in that direction. You get an idea of where they are.
They're following you. Is this a good follow or a bad follow?
They asked.
Okay,
first.
That's good.
They're very interesting. They don't live around here, but they're around here a lot.
Well, you should take me and make an introduction. And then we can see whatever it is that those women were so freaked out by.
Many things here to be freaked out by.
Well, you're not wrong. Once again, Vor desperately wishes she had one of those champagne glasses.
I guess we walk around the corner.
Okay. So now I must figure out what's happened to Shantana, so I'm going to pull another card. Oh, interesting. All right.
Ominous DM words.
Interesting.
Interesting.
I have pulled the lucky coin.
That was the one I wanted.
You took our card!
I was so close.
Notions. Meanings: good fortune, wealth, freedom, unexpected luck, unstructured. We put a lot of value in objects. We place a lot of importance in their presence in our lives. Some people might have a favorite shirt, a trusty handkerchief, or, of course, a lucky coin. Armed with a talisman such as this, no harm can befall us, but we only barely understand the truth of such things. The luck they bring, if they work, never comes in expected form. Something good is coming. It's likely nothing one planned or was expecting, and it can come in many forms: success, money, or the elimination of a problem. The lucky coin is a positive card turn and suggests that the person in question has perhaps less structure weighing upon them than they thought. Fewer strings for the marionette, so to speak. They are more free than they believed, free to act and do as they please. An NPC comes in. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yeah. So... But he's looking at the embodiment of... The thing is that Shantano is looking at the embodiment of murder when this card is drawn. So this is going to be quite interesting. So, Shantano, the thing that you are looking at, and that is in turn looking back out at you, is wearing it looks roughly humanoid in shape. It seems to have slightly longer limbs, and it is covered in a black shroud, and it is carrying a scythe. And it's just sort of just sort of whimsically just kind of passing through the air. It's kind of doing little tricks with it for the audience. And then when it comes down, you see it crouches down kind of almost spider-like. And it looks out at you, and you see these two glowing red eyes. And you see it just sort of puts its, sets its scythe down, and just begins sort of testing it a little bit. The, not the blade, but it's kind of just sort of like pushing the metal back and forth a little bit, or trying to, and is not. And you see it puts a clawed hand up against the side of the cage as it gets close to it and is looking directly at you.
I think as I'm looking into its eyes, anyone who's like close by, they can hear like little tings. Like, if you ever heard glass slowly being shattered or crushed, you know, as it breaks bit by bit. Anyone close to him, they hear tings coming out through different parts of their body, and the sound of like glass rubbing against each other, like rough shards of glass that are like rubbing against each other. Yeah, and they'll notice that if they're looking at Shantanu, they look they're slowly looking slightly different each time, or as time goes by, the longer they look into the eyes.
When this process begins, you notice that it's no longer locked eyes completely with you, but it's watching you very carefully, and it's studying you very carefully as you shift, as the cracks form and and things rearrange a little bit. It tilts its head, and then when you kind of complete the process or get to a lull, it just sort of nods. Are you doing anything else with this thing?
If you said it has its hand up on the cage,
It does.
and
It's touching the
probably
glass. Like that.
match its hand.
You can just barely almost see it does have a face. You can't see it very clearly, but you see like a line appear that would be indicative of a smile. And as it just sort of sets the scythe against the side of the cage for a moment, and as it comes forward, its eyes glow a little bit brighter, and then you feel something happen. And against the glass, it suddenly feels a little warm, and then quite suddenly you have something in your hand. That's between your hand and the glass. It's a small object. Feels like a small metallic object.
They'll remove their hand and take a look at what's there.
It's actually a couple of them. You see it's 2 coins, one stacked on top of another. It looks like actually a sort of a the metal. It looks kind of like a sort of a darker metal. There's like a sort of a skeletal motif, but you can't actually see it too clearly. These look like kind of old coins. And I'm going to say that at this point, because I think that there's been I feel like there's been a long period of study involved here. So I'm going to say Eroshka and Vor are going to come around the corner and see this. They're going to, and the crowd kind of even has sort of had pulled back. There aren't as many people around this cage at this moment. So you can see Shantano clearly. And you can see this thing in the cage clearly. But what Shantano sees also, you're sort of looking as you sort of glance back up as this being pulls back and it's looking down at you. You see one of the lights, one of the two of the lights that are its eyes, goes out and comes back on just for a moment. Kind of like it's winking at you. And then you see kind of that smile again. And then you hear a cracking sound that sounds a lot like when you the one you just created, the one when you just changed. And you look down and you see at the base of the glass cracks forming in the glass of this cage in exactly the same sort of patterns that you just showed this creature. And it is starting to a couple of cracks are appearing, and they're starting to work their way up the side of this this containment.
Shantano would be surprisingly calm and just watch what happens.
Okay. Let me so in a moment, after a moment, it becomes obvious to everyone what is happening, and a lot of the people here are starting to turn and run. I would like to know what Eroshka and Vor are doing.
Well, Vor's immediate reaction is, "This is your friend?"
This is a person that I know. Shantano.
Oh. Yes. There you are.
Shantano, perhaps you would like to meet my cousin outside.
But it was just getting interesting.
I think interesting is going to be a very, very different word from the one I would use.
Yeah, that. Anyways, we're going outside. Feel free to come or not.
They'll take a look around and see that there's nobody else. And like, well, yeah, I guess there's not much more I can get from here then.
And going to hurriedly go outside. Maybe like if there's employees at this menagerie, be like, real quick, some breakage over there.
So you see, there's a couple of gentlemen standing here in uniforms, and they have lions' heads. And they're, wait, breakage, you say?
Yes, on what was that one, Shantano?
Murder.
And immediately you hear a loud shattering noise come from that area, and they're like, "Oh dear!" And they start running. You hear an alarm starting to go off, sort of.
Perhaps we should follow them.
Let's not.
You hear this, and then this calm voice gets piped in. Please leave the Death Menagerie. The Death Menagerie is going to be closed for a brief period of time. Do come back later. And you see people are dashing for the exit. This alarm is going off.
What a shame. But it's quite interesting in this area of death, is it not?
Sure.
I mean, I know many think of death as an end, but sometimes it's just a renewal. It's just the end of one phase, the start of another. Surely it's not that scary.
I suppose that would depend upon the manner of one's death.
Well put.
I guess that does come in. That is a factor as well, I guess.
And if I'm going to die, I would like it to be at my house, surrounded by my money and all of my favorite possessions, and not in a house full of death, being torn apart by something named murder.
Well, I guess they must be able to hit you first.
As you stepped outside of this thing, by the way, you've seen the gates, as the last person comes out, the gates slam shut of this this menagerie, and the glass goes dark. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll hold out my hand anyway to Shantano, who I've never met, and say, Vormera, but you can call me Vor. I'm Arashka's cousin.
Ah, yes, I am Shantano.
Nice to meet you.
I have seen Arashka around, yes.
So she tells me.
We find each other in the same place often.
Do you live nearby?
Above the, well, I can't say I live there per se, but I find myself returning to that little place above the Broken Mirror.
Oh, a fine establishment.
Indeed. So many emotions.
Very fascinating. Always good for a night's entertainment.
But one can only take so much, honestly.
True. Best enjoyed in small doses.
So are you in town for anything in particular? Or?
Oh, just here to see my friends, come visit Arashka for a bit. See if there's anything exciting going on with this fair while it's in town.
Oh. Well, I know Arashka got some interesting information. Something about the Forgotten, I believe.
Yes, that place. I saw an image of it in that weird soul machine thing. And a lady dancing. I'm not sure what it meant.
Was this here at the fair?
Yes, but I don't know that I would recommend you giving that thing a go. I think it sort of got overloaded. At least temporarily.
Well, even if I don't, this has still been a pleasant trip. Minus the thing with murder, of course.
I don't think anybody actually got murdered, for whatever that's worth.
There's still time in the day.
Oh, you believe so? Oh.
Well, I mean, in a manner of speaking, at least.
Well, maybe if we stick around, we'll see it.
I mean, I have no reason to leave the fair just yet. What other kinds of entertainment are nearby?
So there are a number of different attractions. There are places selling different types of foods. There are just sort of on this end. You're sort of still in the Pale area, so there is kind of a sort of a speaking history booth. There is a lot of stuff involving just sort of remembrance to a certain extent, and then also there are there's like a fortune teller type deal, and just a number of and the sort of booths that you would normally see at like a regular carnival, just manned by dead people. Those are kind of the biggies.
Okay, I'm gonna point at the fortune teller because that seems cool, and look back at Shantano and Arashka and say, "Shall we go get our fortunes told? That seems like a good time."
Yeah, it's always good to look into the future.
Arashka,
You're muted.
you're muted.
I'm muted. She agrees, like, sure, let's do it.
Let's go.
Lead the way.
Vor just takes off, swinging her cane very jauntily. She's at a fair. This is exciting and fun.
There are so let me see. So there is hang on just a second. I got to pull something up here. Okay. So there's a tent. It's a sort of a purple and black tent. And there is there's a person standing there with a bowler hat. He's a dead bloke. Just sort of looks at the three of you as you're coming up. You wish to see Madame Anya one at a time or all together?
What do you think? I look at the others.
Well, if we go together, possibly it will be a fortune for us versus a fortune for each of us.
I would like to see what the fortune for all of us would be. But
Let's do all of us.
To you.
I turn back. I'll turn back to the guy and say, "Let's do all of us."
Very well. Once per entry. And he gestures and the tent flap opens. And you see nothing but void inside.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
Oh, good.
All right, I'll lead the way in.
Or just going, Aroshka will follow.
Here.
So as you enter, you see that you feel a sort of a shift. Again, kind of like you're getting onto an airplane, and they just shut the door behind you. So sort of a change in pressure. And you're walking into the darkness, and then this light appears, as of someone lighting a candle. It actually is someone lighting a candle. As this flame comes up and is guttering in the center of this table that you see. You've walked a lot farther at this point than you know this, than the tent, the other side of the tent would be. So this is obviously they're playing a bit with dimensional spaces inside dimensional spaces here. And you see a woman sitting at this table. Her hands laid down flat on them. And you see she has a sooth deck in front of her. And she reaches up with a ghostly hand, and she's not dressed exactly like a fortune teller would. Precisely, one would think anyway, not what one sees. It seems like she has she is bald, She's not wearing, she's wearing just what looks like a simple, just a simple dress. Just a simple gray dress. But as you get closer, you do see that her eyes are like crystalline spheres.
Are there other chairs at this table?
Yes. There are 3
I'm gonna
chairs.
I will go ahead and sit down.
You come over, you sit down. She
I just
nods
sort of,
to you.
I look completely relaxed. Like I'm like leaning on the back of the chair. I've got my legs crossed, sort of tapping the cane against my legs.
Yeah, so she nods to you as you sit. And she looks up at the other 2. She looks up at Arushka and Shantanu.
Yes, I'll also sit.
Yeah, just sit around.
She nods. Understand that after I turn the card, I cannot unturn it. Do you consent to that?
I'll take the risk.
Yes. Can only walk the path we are on.
She looks over at Arushka.
Arosha just nods like,
The future is a terrible burden. And you do seem terribly brave. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. She reaches down puts her hands on either side of the deck, and the deck shuffles. Because if anyone has ever attempted to shuffle a Sooth deck, one would know the cards are round, and it's damn near impossible to do with your hands. A card...
Magic before.
Yeah, of course, yeah, magically is the only way to do it. The card then flips up, showing its back symbol of the woman making the shushing gesture. And the card that lands on the table as it lands, you hear you hear Madame Anya just sort of inhale, and the card that you are looking at is the Endless Maze. She will tell you this is that this is a Low Secrets card. And she will tell you you must take a journey, a long, long journey, only to return to where you started. It will be perhaps an epic journey, but it will be costly. It will take much from you. And before you're done, you may not be able to see your way back. You may soon be lost. You may find your way back. It will be necessary. But at least you will not do it alone. I do hope it is worth it. You will see many a sun. And be changed by it. I wish there was something I could do.
In typical sort of nonchalant fashion, Vor kind of shrugs and says, well, at least you gave us a warning.
It is all I am allowed to say. And
I have a game question.
yes.
How does the apostate's ability of can ignore effect of Sooth card held by Testament of Suns work?
Okay, oh yeah, you can ignore, as apostates, here's the fun part. You can ignore the effects of, you can selectively ignore the effects of the, of when it's played on the Path of Suns. What happens with the Sooth card. So sometimes it'll have a positive or a negative effect depending on your connection to it. And what type of magic you're using, etc. And so I know it extends at least to the type of magic. I don't know if it extends to the heart connection or not. I'm not absolutely sure on that at this point. But I know it at least is for, like, if you get a magical penalty because of the type of magic you're using, you wouldn't. You can ignore that as an apostate. So you might not be bound by this prophecy as others would be, maybe, but it's hard to say. And I think that's going to be all she's allowed to tell you. The candle snuffs out, and you find yourselves exiting the tent. Now, I think that is where we're probably going to leave this, unless there is anything else you would like to make certain to accomplish in this session, just interpersonally or what have you. Is there anything else you want to make sure we hit before we close?
I'm good. Looking forward to attending the party later.
Is everyone else okay? Or was there anything else you wanted to make sure we hit on?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
I think Shantanu just asked Karoshka if she'd be willing to talk more about the Forgotten, if there was anything she knew about it. Or to expand upon her vision if possible.
Aroshka would probably admit that she knows very little, but is happy to chat if you want.
Sure, perhaps we could set another day. Quite a bit has happened today. So.
Yes, and apparently I'm going to a party later.
Oh, the party?
Yes, you're going to the party, not a party.
That one.
Oh, how fun. I'm not allowed.
You're not allowed?
Oh no. They don't like. Well, apostate shattered ones tend to disrupt things, whether on purpose or not.
I could see that being a problem when throwing parties.
Yes. Should probably keep that in mind. I believe. Do we know each other's? Like, out of game, do we all know each other's? What do you call that? Like our apostate and all that kind of stuff.
Your order?
Yeah.
You can if you've talked about it. That's up to you.
It makes sense to me that Vor would probably know.
And vice versa. I would probably know yours and you would know mine since we're
Yeah.
And so,
And you still willingly hang out with me.
Well, I'm a weaver. I'm all about, I mean, if on the rank of most organized to least organized, I'm only a little bit above apostate. I am barely organized.
so if you just give a warning, like, so just keep that in mind if you fall under one of the stranger categories. They may not be as accepting as they seem.
Good to know. Thank you.
I'll make sure her back gets watched.
Aroshka gives you like a look of extreme gratefulness, like, I don't actually want to be at this party, but I didn't want to say no.
Vor just gives you like a wink, like, yes, I know you don't want to go, and I'm sort of pressuring you into this, and I know we've done this before, and I'm grateful. But I'll make sure nothing bad happens as a result. I feel like this was probably like a recurring thing for us growing up, where like Vor wanted to do something and you really kind of didn't, and she sort of pushed you into it. And like 90% of the time it turned out okay, but there was that 10% of the time where we got into like serious trouble.
Roshka's like, I am very good at getting into trouble without you, so.
Okay. Are we good?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, that brings to our conclusion our first development mode session. That was very interesting. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens as we go forward, and what everyone does with all that's transpired. When we meet back up on Saturday, it'll probably still be the fair, but we'll have the whole party, as it were. The party of people rather than the party. There's really only one party. I shouldn't use that word for anything else.
Party.
Yes. So there is that. But what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead now and do our outros. We shall go around and folks to just once again say where folks can find you and any thoughts you had about this session. And I think we're going to go reverse order from what we did last time, which I can't clearly remember, so I'm just going to go in the order that I think it is. And we're going to start with Arras.
Yes. Hello, I am Arras, or Animus Panthera. I'm most active on Twitter, so if you want to find me, I'm probably there. You can find me here on Saturdays, and also for the next 3 weeks only, because we're almost done, on Sundays at Encounter Roleplay, playing Star Wars. There's zombies. It's very creepy.
Nice. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the session, or are we good?
I like this sort of dynamic of like awkward, help us all.
It's a very good dynamic. It's very cool. And let's move on to Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I am at RyRacontor on Twitter. You can also find me on Instagram at ThaliAlata, A-L-A-T-A. I talk a lot about D&D and writing and cosplay and other tabletops. So basically, if you like nerd stuff, I am a fun person to follow. You could follow me there. I am not currently involved with any other streaming stuff, but that's going to change in the next couple of weeks. There's an announcement coming, so stay tuned. It will be very exciting. And this was a blast. I love the concept of a menagerie of deaths very much. That is just wonderfully, wonderfully creepy and wrong. And I just have these horrific mental images in my head. I'm probably not going to sleep tonight, but it was worth it.
Yay! Yay, insomnia! Okay.
Yay!
Well, that's the thing. That's what card came up, so I had to go there. Awesome. And finally, Wilde.
Yes, hi, I'm Wilde Engineer. Okay, you can find me on Skydex Academy on Monday. We're doing our finale for Call of Cthulhu. On Tuesdays, I'm doing Encounter Roleplay for some D&D. On Saturdays, I have some D&D VX on Greyhawk Channel. And here for Invisible Sun. This was really good. It's still kind of creepy, but I guess it's a bit more consensual now, so I guess that's better. And hopefully these coins aren't as ominous as they seem, but I'm afraid that they are.
We'll find out.
They're lucky, though. They're lucky.
Yes.
So lucky.
You were trying so hard to be less creepy, and then you made best friends with murder.
It happens.
These things happen.
And I feel like it's probably better to be best friends with murder than enemies with murder. So at the end of the day...
That's fair. That's very fair. That's probably a thing. That's probably definitely a thing. Let me see. Yes, okay, excellent. It saved it. That's good. So I still have an ending script. That's good. Once again, I'm Jim Ryan. You can find me at OtherDoc on Twitch and Twitter. My website is jimyesthatjim.com, where you can find my Geek Observation podcast and links to my various other podcasts, audio dramas, writings, and such. I've got links down below to my website, Twitter, and YouTube channel. I was very pleased to... I enjoy the Sooth deck quite a lot, and so I'm very, very pleased to get to use it in such a way. It's just always neat to see kind of what's going to come up for that. On this channel. So tomorrow, we are going to go ahead. We're going to start our short campaign of Bad Streets, which is a 1970s cop drama powered by the apocalypse. We're going to just do that for probably 3 episodes here, until the end of the month. Let's see, on the weekends, typically I play video games. The schedule with it has been a little bit weird recently, but hopefully I'll be able to clamber back onto it now that I've kind of got the foundations for Invisible Sun started. That was taking up a lot of my time. Hopefully I'll be able to sort of get back down to doing it. But Friday evening, I will be over on Off the Table, playing in their Urban Shadows campaign, their 1890s Urban Shadows campaign, Sanguahona the Claiming. That's at off_the table if you want to see that. And on Saturday evening, back here, we'll have our next full session of Invisible Sun, where we will be seeing what everyone's going to do next, basically. So we're going to be rejoining everyone back at the World's Fair. On Sunday, we do one-shots here. This Sunday, we are doing one more one-shot of For the Queen, which is a delightful story game I got to play for the first time this past Sunday. We've got a very good crew coming up for it, and I cannot wait. And might be doing something Monday night. Don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it yet, so I won't. But right now, sign-ups are still open for Avarice, which is this delightful blender of Dwarf Fortress, The Quiet Year, and Dread. Basically, if you want to come and play a bunch of doomed dwarves feel free to sign up for that. And I also just opened signups for Posthuman Pathways, which will be the last one-shot of the month. And that is a transhumanist story game, where we sort of try to figure out what's going to happen in the future to humanity and how our characters as individuals will react to that. And so I think that's going to be very interesting. So if there's any interest in that, you can always click on the sign up link down below, or go to jimyesthatjim.com and click on game sign up, and the links to all those individual forms are there. As always, beginners are welcome. I'll go ahead and let's see, I'm going to try tossing a raid over to Tales from the Grim, for they have resumed their Dragonlance/Ravenloft campaign, which is of much delight. And so when we go to the end card, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to raid them, and feel free to hang out and say hi if you so desire. But in the meantime, folks, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you all of a sudden. Farewell.